In this video series, I'm going to go over some horrible, underhand estate agent tactics that I see on pretty much a weekly basis. Also, if you want to share any of your underhand stories, please leave them in the comment section and I'll try and cover them. In over 20 years in the property industry, there are so many stories that you hear day after day about what estate agents, mortgage brokers have done, which doesn't quite sit right. And last week, we had something very similar happen in our office. Let me paint the picture for you. My colleague goes out on a valuation. He comes back and says to me, Lee, something doesn't quite feel right with this valuation. He goes, I've got it on the market. It's on for more money than what I've said. But the big issue is that the owner doesn't seem to understand what's going on. Now, this owner hadn't called for the valuation. We hadn't actually spoken to them to book it in. It was their carer. Now, this carer had told my colleague that he's been looking after this gentleman for a number of years and that he wanted to sell in order to move, which pretty standard phone call, to be honest with you. We live in a retirement town where we do get quite a few people, family members, carers, power of attorneys, court protection orders, where people do have the authority to help a family member or friend put their house on the market. But as I said earlier, something didn't quite feel right with my colleague. He told me that on the appointment, he wasn't able to verbally or writtenly communicate with the actual seller. He was a gentleman who couldn't move much, couldn't communicate or wouldn't communicate, so everything was done via the carer. Again, this normally isn't a problem, providing we've seen that there is a lasting power of attorney or a court protection order that somebody can communicate, make decisions on this person's behalf. The carer had no such thing at all. And we took legal advice, which anyone who's not sure in this industry, if they're doing something right, should always speak to somebody and get clarification. And a lot of agents just don't do this. They always worry about their targets, what their area manager is going to say if they don't hit those targets. So we took legal advice, and that legal advice was, without a lasting power of attorney or a court of protection order to say that that carer could make decisions for that person, then we should not take their instructions. And that's exactly what we did. We called the carer. They came into the office and we said, look, unfortunately, because you don't have this paperwork, you don't have the right legal paperwork to say that you can make decisions for this gentleman, we're not going to be able to take the property on the market. And basically what the solicitor also told us is that we may get to a stage where we've sold the property, agreed the price, but when it got to the legal side, when the conveyancing had to happen, if the conveyancer or the solicitor wasn't happy with the situation with the owner and the person making the decisions for them, they wouldn't proceed any further. So having that lasting power of attorney, all that court of protection order, is a key thing to be able to progress the sale onwards. So after telling the carer that we were declining the instruction on multiple reasons, one being the price, two being that we don't feel that he had sufficient authority to instruct us without that legal framework and paperwork in place. Didn't go down too well, as I'm sure you can imagine, but we feel like we done the right thing. We were protecting that potential seller from being potentially exploited. And when we're talking about a disabled person who apparently can't communicate or physically move, being moved out of their home at an age where they probably shouldn't be, it seems like the right thing to do. We may be wrong, but in our opinion and in the legal expert's opinion, we took that advice and we've done the right thing. But 4 hours later, just 4 hours later, a corporate estate agent lists the property at the overvaluated price which the carer had suggested, and it's on the market. Now, you tell me if you think that taking a property on the market that A, is for too much money for somebody who is in no fit state, in our opinion, to physically move and go through the stressing of moving, and also basing that decision, or the estate agent basing that decision, on a carer who has no legal authority to make those decisions for that seller. I don't know about you, but I like to do things right. I like to do things correctly, and to help people who can and want to move. Some agents are only out for themselves. So when you are picking an estate agent to potentially sell your house, make sure you trust them and you feel like they will do everything right. If you get one single thought that I'm not happy with this, don't use them. So that is this week's story, little video on underhand estate agent tactics and stories. If you do like this series, please give it a thumbs up. Any suggestions on what you'd like to do a video next on, or a story that you've experienced or heard, let me know and we can do a video on it. Watch out there, guys. They're not all as nice as me. Take care.